Hoping you are well. Welcome to the newly timed Facebook Live. So they're going to be every other Thursday now at 11:30, just to try and give you a bit more better content. So every other Tuesday on Instagram, every other Thursday on here. Hoping that you are all well. Got one little viewer there. Hello. And I'm assuming that I'm going to get loads of questions fired in to me shortly. What else have I got to tell you? What have I got to tell you? I've been dogging. That's what I've been doing. She's over there asleep, hopefully full of puppies. That's the plan. I haven't really been dogging. Not this week. What else is there for you to know about? Got some good Insta lives coming up with the Honest Midwife. Well, I'm the Honest Midwife. Loads of those are going to hopefully be talking to the lovely Lady Nadia Essex, when we can pull together our diaries. And what else? That's about it, really. Just need some questions from you guys. Oh, here we go, perfectly. I'm currently 30 weeks pregnant and I've just had a growth scan today. My baby is measuring about a week smaller than what she should be. This was the case at my 28-week growth scan, but it's not much that she is under by. My midwives don't seem too concerned, but I can't help but worry. Honestly, try not to worry. 1 week on a growth scan, there's like a 20% error margin either way. So, and the good thing is like you said, at 28 weeks, she was slightly below, and now at 30 weeks, she's slightly below. So she's actually following a curve. So as long as she's going up, then that's absolutely great. It's if it's when it does this that we worry. So you haven't got static growth. She's still growing. She's just slightly under the centile that she started on. So honestly, please don't worry. Keep an eye on your movements, and other than that, you should be absolutely fine. I'm 7 weeks pregnant with my second baby. I'm suffering from nausea all day, every day. It peaks in the evening time. Any tips on how to cope with this, or any ideas on what I could take to help would be greatly appreciated. So if you're finding it debilitating, I would go to the doctor and see if you can get something for it. What I would say is, if you know the sort of time it tends to peak, try and plan for that in terms of having something little to eat, being sort of nice and calm and settled and that sort of thing. It's really easy for midwives and doctors and stuff to just go, oh, well, you're pregnant, it's normal. It's not normal if it becomes debilitating, and it can really get you down. So it's really important that you do go to your GP and really push back and say, I need something to help with this nausea because it's really starting to get me down. We don't want you to be feeling like that. So really try and, go and see your GP. There is an organisation, I think it's called Hyperemesis Gravidarium. If you just Google that, or extreme morning sickness, there's a charity and they've got lots of resources that you can help. There was a TV programme recently, I think, called The Big Sick with Catherine, I can't remember her surname. Lovely lady. I did an Insta live with her, and it's still on my Instagram actually. So if you look on my IGTV, there is one on there about extreme morning sickness, and it's all about her story. So you might want to have a little look at that as well. Bless your heart. I'm 41 weeks and 37 pregnant. I had a previous C-section when I had my twins, who are now 16. My consultant is insisting that I'm induced at 39 weeks, although I would prefer to go into, so I'm 41 and 37 weeks pregnant. I induced at 39 weeks, although I would prefer to go into labour naturally. Apparently the time between pregnancies is long, and the previous section is the reason for the induction. Does this make sense? I think it's difficult for me to go against your consultant's advice without really knowing your full clinical picture. What I would be asking though is, what's the rationale? So I think you maybe want to push back and say, okay, so at 39 weeks, could I have increased monitoring? So I'll come in twice a week or whatever to have the baby monitored, keeping an eye on the movements, and sort of say, you want to look at placental function. Is everything going there, with the view that if they start to say actually placental function seems to be decreasing, then you might be induced sooner. So I think it's understanding the rationale. I don't think 16 years is a long time, but that would actually, I think I need to, you as well need to understand the rationale behind why they're saying it. They may be worried about, I don't know. That's the problem. I don't know what they're worried about. Your age at 41, you would always be recommended to be induced by 40 weeks. But again, that's about a picture overall. I certainly am not a fan of people pushing and just not having an induction when they're way, way overdue. But I think when you're at this sort of stage, it's about actually, well, what's my clinical picture? Am I okay? Is the placenta functioning? And can you look at those things? And based on the result of that, we can then make a decision. So it's just about weighing up the pros and cons for you as an individual. So I would push back and say, you want to understand why this is being recommended. And if he says, well, 16 years is a long time, say, okay, yeah, I get that. Why is that an issue? What is it that's concerning you about that gap? So that then you understand the reason. And they may turn around and say, well, actually, there's a risk of this, this, and this. I don't know what they're thinking, but I think you need to understand a bit more about why they're recommending it. I'm 38 weeks old. That's odd. I don't think you are 38 weeks old. I'm 38 weeks old. The baby weighs about 4 kilograms and I have an operation on my spine. Could I give birth a second time naturally? So I think you're 38. Your baby weighs about 40 kilograms. Can you just reword that, my lovely? Because I'm just not 100% sure. Amy, my friend is currently in hospital. She's 36 plus 4. This is the second time she's been in hospital in 2 weeks. She's contracting and dilating slowly. She's in a lot of pain and they've only given her paracetamol. Is there anything at all she can do? Well, not really. I mean, if she's dilating, I mean, if she's dilating and it progresses, she will then be able to go on and have gas and air and that sort of thing. But it could be that she's just got unthreatened preterm labour because she's still slightly premature. So there isn't really a huge amount that she could do. She could ask the doctors for stronger pain relief if she's struggling, but it's difficult again to know without knowing how dilated she is. But hopefully she'll start to kick off, not kick off, but you know, things will start to progress. I'm 39 weeks, and when I pass urine, I can sometimes feel pressure, almost lightning crotch. It doesn't happen every time. Do you think this is baby's position because he's low down? He's 3/5 engaged last week. Yeah, it's likely to be. It's just the position your baby's head is in against your bladder and your pelvic bones and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it just gets so uncomfortable, and it could be that your membranes are bulging. So that feeling of pressure could be the baby pushing down on that bag of waters. I'm currently pregnant with my second baby. My first labour was very quick, 4 hours from water was breaking to delivery. What's the chances this baby will be the same or even quicker? I would hustle, Laura. I would hustle when you start getting the contraction. The thing to do is ring the hospital and say, started contracting, second baby, first baby was really, really quick. I'm on my way in. They won't mess around with you. They will say, right, just make your way in. And then worst case scenario, you get sent home. But you know, I would just make sure that you've got stuff at home. If it was straightforward first time, maybe consider a home birth so that actually you don't need to go to the hospital. That's something you could consider. But yeah, just once you start having those contractions, just hoof your way in there. Inglatina, it's a nice name. I'm 35 weeks plus 1 day. I'm wondering, do I have to buy a birthing ball? Do you recommend something instead of a birthing ball? Excuse me. I think birthing balls are good. You can usually pick them up for 5 to 10 quid off Amazon. So yeah, I would probably get one. It helps with that movement. It's really good in early labour, but you don't have to buy one. There isn't really an alternative to a birthing ball. They are what they are really. So, but yeah, I would get one. I've read that eating dates towards the end of your pregnancy helps speed up labour. Have you seen this? I have seen this work indeed, and I would definitely recommend it. So from about 34 weeks, you can eat, I think it's 80 grams of dates a day. Can't quite remember, you need to check that out. And I've heard lots of reports of women, it goes back to biblical times. It's actually written in the Bible somewhere. Can't remember what page, what chapter, what verse, but it is in there somewhere. But I've had lots of reports of women that have had nice quick labours that I've done really quite well, minimal bleeding, so definitely worth a go. If you've got diabetes, be very mindful they're full of sugar, and don't wrap them in sticky toffee pudding because you'll end up with diabetes. There you go. I had my 20-week scan and was told my placenta is low, so I'm booked in for another scan at 32 weeks to see if it's moved. Does having a low placenta affect feeling the baby move? I felt baby move, but it's little bits here and there. I know baby's still small and had loads of room, but was just worried that I wasn't feeling baby move much as I should. And I wouldn't say a low-lying placenta would necessarily impact that. What I would say is that 9 times out of 10, they actually move out of the way, so don't worry too much about that. Often an anterior placenta movements can be a little bit muffled. But no, generally you should be fine. But at 20 weeks, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Just keep an eye on it and it'll get more and more pronounced. I am currently 29 weeks pregnant with my 3rd baby, and I've just had an anti-D injection as I am blood A negative, and I've received a phone call back from the nurse saying they've found positive antibodies in my blood, so they want me up at the day unit to test. I miscarried back at the end of 2009. I'm so worried sick that something is wrong or something will go wrong. Thank you. Bless you. There's nothing that I'm going to be able to say to reassure you other than the fact that they've picked it up, they've called you in, and they're going to go and have a little look and see what's going on. So they're your best place to be, and you've got an appointment, so head on in there. But do let us know how you get on, and fingers crossed everything will be fine. The fact that they know about it means they can monitor it, so hang on in there. She's only 2 to 3 centimetres. I think she's having a C-section. I'm assuming this is the lady who's niggling. So there's not really anything much that she can do, really, until she has that section. And hopefully they're not going to hang on too long before they do it. I would have thought they would do it in the next 2 or 3 days. I mean, it depends on why she's in there, really. If it's just contracting, again, I don't have a huge clinical picture there, but in terms of pain relief, there's very little. She could ask for some Pethidine. That might really help to relax her a little bit. I'm 36 weeks, and the last few days have been feeling faint and vomiting of the morning, which doesn't last long. I've had a monitoring scan and all is well. However, I had another turn was sick during the scan. They didn't seem concerned, but would just like to know if this is anything I can do to prevent this. Victoria, have you asked them to check your blood levels? Because you might be anemic. That feeling of faintness is often associated with anemia. So I would get that checked out if I were you. Again, have your blood pressure taken. You might have low blood pressure. I mean, being sick isn't something that we're hugely concerned about, as long as it's not happening all the time and you're managing to take in fluids and stuff. But it is worth a blood pressure check and having your bloods done. I have been, for my 32 week scan, my baby's head was measuring big above the 90th centile, and his femur and humerus are measuring below. This is the first time this has been picked up. Honestly, don't worry. That vision makes you feel like you've got a baby with a massive head with tiny arms and all that jazz. It won't be as pronounced as that. And if they were worried, they would really be sort of investigating and that sort of thing. It's just the measurements that they've got. Your baby will come out looking perfectly normal and beautiful. I am absolutely sure. So please try not to worry. It's really easy for me to say that, but honestly. Hi, is it normal to not really feel pregnant at 15 weeks? This is my 2nd baby. I can't remember ever feeling like this with my 1st. I had awful nausea and exhaustion up until now, but that seems to have settled quite a bit, apart from the evening where I feel a bit dodgy. But in terms of a bump, I'm not really showing at all, despite having gained a load of weight, and just don't feel pregnant somehow. Is this normal? Yeah, it can be, Rachel. You just don't know. And like you said, you felt grotty throughout the beginning, and you are still feeling a bit dodgy in an evening, which would say that something's going on. Quite often people don't show that early, so again, it's not something to be majorly concerned about. If you find though, Rachel, that you're getting yourself at it and you are really worrying yourself sick, just give your midwife a ring and see if there's any chance she would just have a little listen in to try and reassure you. Most midwives will try their best to help if they can, even if it's just can I pop in for 5 minutes just for you to listen in, see what you get. My first lady ended up with having an emergency C-section. What are the chances of me being able to give birth, have a natural water birth next time? A natural water birth after a C-section, you're going to have discussions with people and sort of fight your corner on it, because they're going to prefer you to have continuous monitoring with a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean. Doesn't mean to say that you can't have one. And it might be that you can say, actually, well, I'll labour in the water and get out and give birth on dry land. But again, it's a discussion to have. A lot of it depends on why you had the section. If your baby was in an odd position, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be in an odd position this time round. So it's a discussion to have with them. And don't, if the midwife says, oh, that's not possible, just say, well, I'd like to discuss it with the consultant to understand what is possible and what is and isn't recommended. Everything is possible. It's just understanding whether it's the right thing to do. It's always going to be possible for you to get into a pool. That the logistics of that is you step your leg over and you get in. The question is whether it's the right thing and the right risk levels. So I think those are good discussions to have with your consultant. Oh, Rachel's got an anterior placenta. That may well make a difference in terms of the movements that you're feeling, Rachel. I'm 32 weeks and had a synchronic hematoma all the way through. Will this be a problem in labour, fifth baby? Just depends on where it is, really, where that hematoma is. But again, this is something I'm not going to be able to help you with. It would be more your consultants that are going to be able to tell you. But fifth baby, I would say you're probably going to be all right. But again, it just depends on whether it's going to cause an obstruction. I'm 7 weeks pregnant and have no real symptoms apart from tender breast. Can pregnancy still be progressing okay with a lack of symptoms? Yeah, it can be. It's just impossible at 7 weeks to really know what's going on, and it is just that leap of faith of just waiting and seeing what's going on. Horrible though, really is horrible waiting. I'm 30 weeks and 4 days, third pregnancy. I was wondering if it's normal for baby to start dropping at around 29 weeks and 4 days as it looks like my baby's dropped. The thing to think about, Sarah, is if your baby's moving normally and you're not having any vaginal leakage or waters or anything like that, you've got to assume that everything's all right. Because other than that, if you're well, your baby's moving well, and you're not leaking any fluid, then there's no reason to assume it's anything other than normal. I'm 13 weeks pregnant, first pregnancy. I've just found out I have grade cells after a smear, high grade cells. Currently being investigated. What's the chances they will make me have surgery or anything done whilst pregnant? I would like to delay until baby's here. Can you shed some light, please, until my results come in? I'm anxious. I can understand why you're anxious. I would say that if surgery is recommended in pregnancy, I would go with it. You need to make sure that this, if it needs nipping in the bud, that it is nipped in the bud. And you need to be here and well to look after your baby. But it doesn't necessarily mean that because you've got high grade cells that they're going to want to jump immediately. They may just want to watch and see if there's any changes. It just depends on what they're actually looking at. So again, with all of these things, with most of these questions, the difficulty is that it's a waiting game. It's like nobody knows the answer. To put it in a completely basic analogy, Margot's just been mated for puppies. I've got to wait 30 days. There's no way around it other than just to wait. And that's what gets us in our tears, because we don't know it's like being in a dark room, isn't it? Not knowing what's going on. So you're going to feel a little bit better once you've got some answers to what they're actually looking at. But hang on in there. Let us know how you get on. Are women and birthing partners being tested for COVID when they go into hospital whilst in labour? If so, and they are positive, what will happen? Also, if restrictions are lifted in June, then will they be tested when we are all in labour? Good questions, Indy. Women are being tested generally, I believe, as you go in. My friend's daughter had a baby last week and she was tested while she was in. She had the baby, she came home, she got a phone call, she was positive. So they didn't actually get tight. She wasn't in there long enough for them to do anything about it. I don't know whether they're testing partners. Again, there will be variances throughout the country, so I'm not 100% sure. In terms of in June, I think we will continue to be testing. And if your partner did test positive, they would be sent home. I'm 34 weeks, and since yesterday I've had constant pressure in my pelvis and period-like cramps. What should I be worried? Keep an eye on baby's movements, Sophie, and see whether you've got any loss from down below. Other than that, there's not really that much else you can do. You could phone your unit and say that you feel that you might be contracting, and they might bring you in and test you out. So I would probably give the unit a ring just to let them know what's going on. I've just been diagnosed with SPD, so I'm in so much pain. I've been referred to a physio and just been signed off work, which is a massive mental blow. I've never been signed off. Will this affect my birth, or will I have to be induced? So it depends on how bad it gets, Abby. What I would say is on Sunday, I think it's either Saturday or Sunday, we have a pelvic girdle pain workshop with our specialist women's physio, and she's great. So why don't you sign up for that? It's 15 quid. And it's an hour and a half session, and she gives loads and loads of information and tips. So it's not an exercise class, but she will show you different exercises and things that you can do to really help. And she does get some really good feedback. So I would definitely do that. I'm assuming that Laura's watching, so I'll ask her to put the link up for the pelvic girdle pain, Laura. It's on the Women's Fitness antenatal and postnatal wellness tab on the Let's Talk Birth and Baby website. So we'll put that up for you, and then you can sign off. But yeah, lots of women do give birth vaginally with SBD. It just depends on how severe it is. I'm 15 weeks and 3 days. I've had 5 previous sections and I'm feeling some discomfort around the scar area and very light period pains when it comes to the afternoon. Is that common, please? I think with 5 previous sections, Hannah, it's worth getting that checked out. It probably is common, but it's not for me to say it's all okay. I would touch base with your midwife. Hi, similar growth question. I had a private scan 2 weeks and the baby was fine. Had another last night and baby's now measured 3 weeks behind. Confused and worried. I'm 18 weeks just now. Can diet help the baby grow? Not particularly so much with diet. So you had one at 16 weeks. I would say you need to have the later ones for us to start worrying about growth. But yeah, just keep a healthy diet, Fiona. You can't sort of like pack on loads of calories and get a bigger baby. It won't be anything to do with that particularly. I'm 35 weeks and 3 days, first time mum, and thank you so much, Laura. And for the past week or so, I've noticed pins and needles in my hands, oh bless you, when I wake up either during the night or sometimes multiple times during the night. I've noticed my hands have swelled over the last week, which I know can be normal, so I assume the pins and needles is connected. So the pins and needles is probably the beginning of carpal tunnel syndrome, which is quite common in pregnancy. There is a post, I think, on my Instagram at The Honest Midwife about it. If you've got swelling though, I would definitely touch base with your midwife just to say, could you have a blood pressure check? Just to rule out increases in your blood pressure, because that could be a sign of early warners of preeclampsia. Not necessarily, but it's just worth getting it checked out. But the pins and needles is probably carpal tunnel, which is compression of those nerves, and it's really horrible, really uncomfortable, and it can be quite painful. The good thing is that over time it will go once your baby arrives, but it's compression of these nerves, and so it does take a while for them to spring back the way they were. So you will get there, but yeah, just get a blood pressure check, please. There is the link for the pelvic girdle workshop. I can definitely recommend it to anybody who is suffering with pelvic girdle pain. And even if you're like 38 weeks, you don't know when your baby may go, so you may have another 4 weeks left. So it's definitely worth hooking onto that class. Right, you've kept me busy as always with all your questions, which is fab. Thank you very much. I do quite like this time. I think we're getting more people here. Obviously, if you've got other questions, you can always get me over at The Honest Midwife. Just send me a DM and I'll try my best to get back to you. Other than that, we are all good and done and dusted for the day. So we will see you Facebook fortnight today, Instagram next Tuesday at 12, I think it's 12. Thank you, Kim. Do contact your midwife. I've just found out I've left lateral placenta. Is this something to worry about? No, perfectly normal. Perfectly normal. That's it. You're all good, lovely as always, and I shall see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye.